When power is protected, truth becomes the casualty. In this fiery exchange, Rep. Zoe Lofgren presses Kash Patel on explosive reports that the FBI diverted agents not to fight crime or terrorism, but to scrub Donald Trump's name from the Epstein files. What unfolds next is more than a political confrontation, it's a test of transparency, justice, and whether accountability still matters in America.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm concerned by reports that FBI agents have been diverted from their important work on crime and anti-terrorism to work on matters that are not critical to our safety. I'd like to play the video, the whole video.
Jeffrey
clip.
Epstein's
Black Book?
Black Book.
FBI.
But who? That is, I mean, there's...
Oh, that's under direct control of the director of the FBI.
So, but the Black Book, it's not just sitting, I mean, that's Hoover power times 10.
And to me, that's a thing I think President Trump should run on. On day one, roll out the Black Book.
In contrast to that attitude of let it all out, we're getting reports of actions that run contrary to getting everything out and that also involve diversions of FBI resources. For example, an FBI whistleblower reported that you were pressured by the Attorney General to place 1,000 personnel on 24-hour shifts to mine roughly 100,000 Epstein-related records to redact President Trump's name from the files. Bloomberg reported this, that you directed FBI special agents from the New York and Washington field offices to join the Bureau's FOIA employees in Winchester and another building a few miles away, and that while reviewing the Epstein files, FBI personnel identified numerous references to Trump in the documents, and people familiar with the matter said that Trump's name, along with other high-profile individuals, was blacked out. Now, the New York Times reports, and this is a quote, Justice Department officials diverted hundreds of FBI employees and federal prosecutors from their regular duties to go through the documents at least 4 times, including once to flag any references to Mr. Trump and other prominent figures. Details of the review were based on accounts by 3 former FBI and Justice Department officials who spoke on condition of anonymity because of fears of retaliation, and further that the FBI finished, after they finished its review of the files and materials, was sent to a team of Justice Department lawyers who double-checked the FBI's redactions and, quote, were instructed to flag any mentions of Mr. Trump and other celebrities. Now, I have 3 questions for you, Mr. Patel, about this. First, how many times did President Trump's name appear in the Epstein files? Was it more than 100, more than 1,000? Were the agents who were pulled from their duties to redact the president's name from the Epstein files working on criminal cases or national security cases or child sex trafficking cases? And are the number of agents that have been reported diverted for these purposes, is that accurate?
No.
No what?
You asked if it was accurate. I said it wasn't.
So you're saying that none of this happened? That,
no, I'm saying it was inaccurate.
Okay. How many times did President Trump appear in the Epstein files? More than 100? More than 1,000?
No, and what we've been able to release is what we've been legally able to release, and that has been...
No, that's not the question. I asked you, how many times did the president's name appear?
I don't know.
It's your testimony. You do not know that answer.
The number of times? No.
Could you tell us how many agents were diverted for this task and what they were working on?
Well, when you say diverted, you make it seem as if agents were pulled off what they do all the time. Agents at the FBI masterfully do double duty and triple duty. And because of the public's interest in this case, we flexed resources to make sure that we could answer the public's signal demand. So do you want us to look through the material and provide it to you, or you do not want us to do that?
So it's your testimony that no one was diverted from a criminal matter, that this was a top priority to go through these this material to look for Mr. Trump's name. Is that your testimony? That's the highest priority for the FBI?
What's one of the most impressive things about the FBI leadership and the careers that are in place is that they make the decisions on who to send where on priorities and make sure the mission needs are not hurt. And that's what happened here.
It's shocking to me that the FBI would think that erasing Mr. Trump's name from the Epstein files is a high priority when we have crime, we have national security threats, we have terrorism threats, we have murders such as that occurred, unfortunately, with Mr. Kirk. It's shocking to hear that that's your highest priority. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
That's literally not what I said.
Gentleman yields back. Gentleman from Wisconsin is recognized.
What we just witnessed wasn't just another tense congressional exchange, it was a confrontation about truth, power, and the very credibility of America's justice system. Representative Zoe Lofgren's questioning of Kash Patel cut straight into an uncomfortable reality that many in Washington would rather avoid. When powerful names appear in scandalous files, do our institutions really seek justice, or do they work to protect the powerful? Lofgren began with something many viewers might have missed. She played Patel's own words from an earlier appearance, where he called for total transparency on the Jeffrey Epstein case. Back then, he said, roll out the black book. In other words, release everything. Let the public see the truth. But today, that same man stands accused of helping orchestrate efforts to conceal parts of those very same files. That's not just hypocrisy. It's an example of how rhetoric and reality often diverge once power enters the picture. Lofgren's questioning exposed a tension at the heart of American governance. The claim that the FBI and the Justice Department are impartial versus the perception, and perhaps the reality, that political influence quietly guides what the public is allowed to see. She referenced reports suggesting hundreds of FBI agents were diverted from ongoing criminal and counterterrorism investigations to comb through over 100,000 Epstein-related documents, not to pursue leads, but allegedly to redact one man's name, Donald Trump's. That's a chilling allegation, because if that's true, it tells us that the machinery of justice can be redirected, not toward finding the guilty, but toward managing public perception. And when that happens, democracy itself begins to erode, because public trust in the system disappears. Lofgren pressed Patel for facts, for clarity. How many times did Trump's name appear in the Epstein files? Were agents taken off their normal assignments to sanitize documents? And if so, why? But Patel's responses were evasive, almost robotic. He denied accuracy without explanation. He claimed flexibility of resources. He talked about meeting public demand instead of directly answering. It was the kind of bureaucratic deflection that has come to define Washington hearings. Polite enough to sound professional, empty enough to avoid accountability. But the deeper issue here isn't just Patel's discomfort, it's about how institutions that claim to serve justice can end up serving narratives. The Epstein case, for years, has symbolized something larger, how the wealthy and well-connected seem to exist under a different standard of law. Ordinary people go to jail for minor offenses, but when names like Trump, Clinton, or royalty surface in relation to Epstein, everything suddenly becomes classified, under review, or redacted for privacy. And that's what makes this exchange so important. Lofgren wasn't just trying to make a political point. She was exposing a pattern, how the system shields those it depends on. She was challenging the moral logic behind diverting law enforcement from protecting Americans against crime, terrorism, and child exploitation just to protect a politician's reputation. Her disbelief was palpable when she said it was shocking that scrubbing Trump's name from the Epstein files could be treated as a high priority, because it is shocking. Think about that, a federal agency prioritizing image management over public safety. It's the kind of decision that tells citizens exactly where they stand in the hierarchy of concern, somewhere beneath the reputations of the powerful. Patel's defense, that FBI agents do double and triple duty, was tone deaf. It wasn't a defense of justice, it was an administrative shrug. Because the question isn't whether the FBI can multitask, the question is why this task, cleaning up Epstein-related records, was ever on the top of their list. What message does that send to survivors of abuse who have been waiting for justice? To the public that's been told to trust the system? Moments like this matter because they reveal the fault lines running through America's institutions. Fault lines between transparency and secrecy, between accountability and political protection. And when citizens start to believe those lines can't be crossed, when they begin to assume that the truth will always be redacted, that's when trust dies. Lofgren's closing words, her disbelief, her frustration, captured the mood of millions of Americans who have watched scandal after scandal fade without resolution. She was saying what so many think but can't say aloud in those halls, that justice shouldn't depend on who you know, how powerful you are, or what party you belong to. It should depend on truth. And that's the heart of this entire confrontation. Not partisanship, but principle. Because if a system spends more time protecting the politically connected than protecting the public, it ceases to be a justice system at all. It becomes something else, a machine for managing appearances. So the question Lofgren's confrontation leaves us with is this. If even the most shocking scandals, like Epstein's, can be sanitized to protect the powerful, what does that say about the moral compass of the institutions we're told to trust? These hearings remind us that accountability isn't automatic. It has to be demanded, again and again, by people who refuse to look away. Because justice only survives when enough people care to chase it, even when the powerful don't want them to. If you value analysis that cuts deeper, that looks past the spectacle to ask why these exchanges matter, then subscribe to Left Lens. We bring context to controversy, clarity to chaos, and conscience to the conversation. Because understanding isn't just power, it's protection.